In the opulent setting of the Golden Star, a symbol of luxury and class in Beverly Hills, frequented by movie stars and the elite, a man of unassuming appearance sat quietly at his usual corner table. It was Clint Eastwood, the restaurant's secret owner, discreetly observing and evaluating the quality of service. Tonight, Clint was dressed in a simple gray polo shirt and khakis, a stark contrast to the expensive suits and glamorous evening gowns of the surrounding patrons. He wanted to see if his restaurant truly upheld the spirit of genuine hospitality, where every customer, regardless of status or appearance, was treated equally and respectfully. Tiffany, an ambitious young waitress with dreams of becoming a social media influencer, glided between tables with an air of arrogance. She was only interested in serving the famous and wealthy, those who could boost her Instagram and TikTok followers. For Tiffany, success was measured by the number of fans and the expensive gifts she received from VIP customers. George, the seasoned manager of the Golden Star, watched Tiffany from a distance with growing concern. He knew that her arrogance and discriminatory behavior could cause serious trouble. George had witnessed Tiffany disregard and ignore casually dressed customers, and tonight her target was the restaurant's owner. Tiffany approached Clint's table with a fake smile plastered on her face. "Sir, I've noticed you've been nursing that whiskey for quite some time," she said, her tone dripping with mock concern, but her eyes betraying her disdain. "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at the bar. This table is reserved for our special guests." Clint looked up at Tiffany, his gaze calm and penetrating. "I'm comfortable here," he replied, his familiar, gravelly voice resonating, before taking a sip of his whiskey. Tiffany persisted. "Sir, our chef has a very exclusive menu with dishes prepared from the finest ingredients," she said, deliberately emphasizing each word and glancing at Clint's simple attire. "Our prices reflect the caliber of our establishment." Carlos, a young Mexican busboy, was clearing a nearby table and overheard the conversation. He recognized Clint Eastwood, his childhood idol. Carlos had watched all of Clint's movies with his father, and he admired his courage and integrity. He wanted to speak up and defend his idol, but he was intimidated by Tiffany's arrogance and authority. "I'm aware of the prices," Clint said, his voice firm and resolute. Tiffany grew impatient. "Then, sir, may I present the menu?" she said, deliberately elongating her words and emphasizing each syllable to show her disrespect. Carlos couldn't take it anymore. "Miss Tiffany, maybe I should call Mr. George," he said, his voice trembling. "You stay out of this," Tiffany snapped, turning sharply and glaring at Carlos. "Go clear the tables. This is none of your business." She turned back to Clint and continued. "Sir, this isn't some ordinary roadside diner. This is the Golden Star, a prestigious restaurant. Things might have been different in your day, but now we have standards." "Standards," Clint repeated, raising an eyebrow. "And what are your standards?" "Our standards are modern luxury," Tiffany said, pointing towards the young patrons taking photos of their gold leaf desserts and posting them on social media. "Our clientele understands and respects the Golden Star. They don't pretend to be someone they're not." "Pretend," Clint said, a half-smile forming on his lips. "An interesting word." Tiffany began to lose her patience. "Listen," she said, her voice rising and challenging. "I've tried to be polite, but it's clear you don't belong here. This isn't a set from one of your old cowboy movies. This is a prestigious restaurant, and I won't have you ruining the experience for our real guests." As soon as Tiffany finished speaking, George stopped in his tracks, his eyes filled with worry. Carlos dropped a tray of dishes, the crash echoing through the quiet restaurant. The other patrons turned in astonishment. Clint pulled out his phone and made a call. "David, bring me the ownership papers and the renovation plans," he said, his voice deep and commanding. He turned to Tiffany, his eyes piercing. "You know, Tiffany, I've been coming here every Friday for the past 6 months, sitting at this table, drinking this whiskey. Do you want to know why?" Tiffany paled, realizing she had made a terrible mistake. "Because 6 months ago I bought this restaurant," Clint said, his voice low but clear. "Not for the prestige, not for the modern luxury, but because for 50 years, the Golden Star represented something real. Genuine hospitality, where everyone was treated equally and respectfully." Silence fell over the restaurant. David, the restaurant's lawyer, appeared with a leather portfolio. He nodded respectfully to Clint and stepped back. Clint looked at Tiffany, his eyes stern but not angry. "Let me tell you a story about this place," he said. 50 years ago, I came here for the first time. I wasn't famous. I was nobody. The owner then, Mr. Thompson, treated me like the most important guest. Not because of who I was, but because that's how he treated everyone. When his son wanted to sell the place, I bought it for one reason: to preserve that spirit. True class isn't about designer labels or social media followers. It's about dignity, respect, and treating everyone like they matter. Carlos stood taller, his eyes filled with admiration. The older patrons nodded in agreement. Even the young influencers put down their phones, captivated by Clint's story. "So, Tiffany," Clint said, looking her in the eye, "the question isn't whether I belong here. The question is whether you understand what this place truly represents." Tiffany teared up, realizing she had been wrong to judge others by their appearance. "I could fire you right now," Clint said, his voice softer. "But that's not what this place is about. Instead, I'll give you a choice." He gestured to Carlos. "This young man tried to warn you. He recognized me, not from social media, but because he watched my movies with his father. He understood something you didn't. Respect isn't about appearances." He turned to Carlos. "Son, would you like to train as a waiter? We need people who understand what true service is." Carlos's eyes widened with disbelief and gratitude. "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir." "As for you, Tiffany," Clint said, "your choice is simple. You can walk out that door and find another job at a place that focuses on modern luxury, or you can learn from Carlos and our veteran staff about true hospitality. The decision is yours." Tiffany wiped her tears, looked around at the stern but compassionate faces of the longtime staff, and made her decision. "I'd like to stay and learn, sir, if you'll let me." "Good choice," Clint said, finishing his whiskey. George assigned Carlos to retrain Tiffany. He knew that Carlos, with his enthusiasm and compassion, would be a great mentor for Tiffany. George also hoped that Tiffany would learn to respect and treat everyone well, regardless of their status or appearance. The tension in the dining room gradually dissipated, replaced by relief and admiration. The older patrons applauded, expressing their agreement and admiration for Clint's actions. Others joined in, creating a prolonged round of applause. They were clapping not for a celebrity in their midst, but for the valuable lesson they had just witnessed. It was a reminder that true class has nothing to do with clothes or status, but with how we treat each other. That night, the Golden Star was not just a luxurious restaurant, but a place that radiated deep human values. The story of Clint Eastwood and Tiffany became a legend, reminding everyone of the importance of respect and genuine hospitality. In the days that followed, Tiffany began her apprenticeship under Carlos's guidance. She realized that she had been living in an illusion, where appearances and social status were paramount. Tiffany gradually changed her attitude and behavior. She learned to listen and care for everyone, regardless of their wealth or fame. Carlos, with his patience and kindness, helped Tiffany realize the value of humility and compassion. He shared stories with Tiffany about the customers he had served, who might not have been rich or famous, but had admirable qualities. George also took the time to talk to Tiffany, sharing with her the experiences and lessons he had accumulated throughout his career. He emphasized that true success does not come from arrogance or discrimination, but from dedication and genuine hospitality. Gradually, Tiffany became a dedicated and professional server. She was loved by customers and respected by her colleagues. Tiffany realized that true satisfaction and happiness did not come from expensive gifts or praise on social media, but from creating memorable experiences for customers and building genuine relationships with everyone. Clint Eastwood, with satisfaction and faith in humanity, continued to visit the Golden Star every Friday night. He sat at his usual corner table, quietly observing and ensuring that the restaurant's core values were upheld. He knew that even though people sometimes stray, goodness and sincerity always exist. And sometimes all we need is a lesson to realize the true values of life. The Golden Star was not just a restaurant, but a symbol of hope and faith in humanity. It was a place where everyone, regardless of status or appearance, was welcomed and treated with respect and genuine hospitality. And that was the legacy that Clint Eastwood wanted to leave for the world. He wanted the Golden Star to be a beacon of kindness and compassion, a place where people could find warmth and acceptance. One Friday evening, a few months after the incident, Clint was sitting at his usual table, sipping his whiskey and observing the restaurant. Tiffany, now a confident and graceful server, was attending to a table of customers with a radiant smile. She had completely transformed, not only in her demeanor, but also in her outlook on life. Carlos, now a respected waiter, was instructing a new employee on how to prepare a special cocktail. George, the manager, was standing at the bar, chatting with a regular customer. The atmosphere in the restaurant was filled with warmth and friendliness. Clint smiled with satisfaction. He knew he had made the right decision. He had not only saved a restaurant, but also changed a person's life. Tiffany had learned a valuable lesson about respect and compassion, and she had become a better person because of it. As night fell, Clint stood up and left the restaurant. He stepped out into the brightly lit streets of Beverly Hills, feeling a deep sense of contentment. He knew that the Golden Star would continue to shine, not just as a luxurious restaurant, but as a symbol of noble human values. And if you visit the Golden Star on a Friday evening, you might see a man in a simple polo shirt sitting at his usual corner table, quietly observing and smiling. It's Clint Eastwood who taught us a valuable lesson about respect, compassion, and the power of change.